consisting of contact information of the speakers, community flyers, and agency information. Please remember throughout the night to utilize the chat features and Q&A boxes. So I'm just going to give the poll another couple of seconds for our attendees to fill out. Wonderful. So here are the poll results. Please take a brief look at those as we know who is in attendance of this event and again, the emotional climate of the event. Great. To start this evening off, please help me in giving a warm welcome to Executive Director Jill Zinkraft for beginning opening remarks.
Hi, everyone. Good evening. I am also doing the PowerPoint, so you'll see that little cursor going around. So I just want to take a moment and say good evening, and thanks so much for tuning in and being in community with DASAC. My name is Jill Zinkraft, and over the last 7 years, I have had the tremendous honor of being the Executive Director at DASAC, and this has been and continues to be my dream job. I first want to say thank you to all the people representing their local agencies and to all the panelists, all of whom you'll be hearing from tonight. And I would like to say a very special thank you to Hailey Fritzsch and all the DASAC staff and community members that work so very hard to make tonight special for everyone. October is Domestic Violence Awareness Month, and when the staff at DASAC were trying to decide what would be most impactful for our community, it quickly became evident that we needed to address what was happening around us in real time, the communities that we all served. And they were struggling with children's trauma from COVID, adjusting to the new norm. And we know that there's an intersectionality of interpersonal violence in there. What we know to be true is that interpersonal violence impacts all of us across all our fields of expertise. And you'll be hearing from some of our community partners tonight. I am so grateful for the opportunity to welcome all of you, and I, along with all of you, am excited to hear from all our guests. So with that, I will turn the program back to Hailey, and thank you.
Thank you so much, Jill, for those opening remarks. I, as well as her, am eager to get started for tonight. So with that, we're going to welcome our first community friend. Our first community friend is Gabriella from Firth Youth.
Can everybody hear me? Hi. I am Gabriella Rosano from the Firth Youth Center. I am the project coordinator for the Drug-Free Community Grant. And today I'm going to be telling everybody about the services that we provide during COVID and for the foreseeable future, which include free curbside lunches for any child Monday through Friday, and that is 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. You just ring the doorbell at the Firth Youth Center and we'll bring out lunches to you. We also offer homework printing, copying, or faxing. We have free books from the Cops and Kids Reading Room, and we have a little library box outside of the Firth Youth Center that's filled every day with different books that can be taken and kept. We also offer free school supplies upon any request. We have paper, notebooks, pens, pencils, binders, etc. So anything that you guys need, school supplies wise, we have that available. Some additional services that we are currently providing are multiple after-school programs, including a girls' fun run group. We have basketball skills and drills for girls and boys, a jiu-jitsu class, and a multi-level dance classes. So we also offer daily snack and chat Zoom sessions to log in and talk with a positive role model on various different topics. We can play virtual learning games and discuss different ways to stay active and healthy, as well as active or virtual tutoring with students with some really fantastic Lafayette College students. So we do offer that as well. And in the future, we do hope to offer full-day childcare at the Firth Youth Center, but as of right now, we are not able to do that. So for any updates or staying in the loop with everything that we're doing, you can enroll in our weekly newsletter.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Gabriella.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Next up, we have our other community friend, Carly from Family Guidance Organization.
Hi, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi, everyone. My name is Carly Marcinkowski. I'm from the Family Guidance Center of Warren County. I am the Adolescent Substance Use Coordinator for the outpatient program, and I'm here to tell you about the services that we provide and what we've been doing currently with the changes that we've seen with COVID. So we have services for mental health and substance use, services at all different levels of care. We do focus on trauma in some of our programs that we have, and we are doing everything virtually right now, except intakes. So intakes are in person, so we get to still build rapport with the clients, but we are doing most things virtually to still continue the services with COVID. And that's pretty much what we provide. So thank you for having me.
Thank you so much for being a part of this, Carly.
Thank you.
Next up, we have our community partner, Elizabeth Bain from Quenyon.
Good evening. I'm Elizabeth Bain. I'm the statewide outreach coordinator for Quenyon Professional Health Services. Quenyon is a multicultural, intensive outpatient mental health and addictions counseling facility. Currently, Quenyon is providing both secure and confidential teletherapy and virtual therapy for children, adolescents, and adults. We accept most private insurances, Medicare, Medicaid. If you don't have insurance, a sliding scale fee. Some of the challenges that we are currently facing in the light of COVID are as follows. There's a lack of privacy in the home with the therapy sessions, feeling of isolation due to limited or no time with peers, no peer-to-peer validation, an influx in behavior problems for children. Virtual therapy can be a problem for individuals with limited knowledge in technology. This is a real life stressor. Our therapists provide our clients with unconditional positive validation for their struggles. They assist our clients in finding new coping skills, as well as routines to follow on a day-to-day basis. In addition, our therapists are continuously providing creative ideas and activities to do with their young clients. Thank you again for giving me this opportunity to speak with you today.
Thank you, Elizabeth. Thank you so much for being here and sharing with us.
Thank you.
Our next community partner is Penelope Griffin from Family Service Organization.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Penelope Griffin, and I am with the Family Support Organization of Hunterdon, Somerset, and Warren County. The mission of FSO is to ensure that children with special emotional, developmental, intellectual, behavioral, and substance use challenges and their families are provided with a community-based, compassionate, and culturally competent support system that will provide ongoing family-oriented support, information, education, and advocacy. And we do this in a few ways. One way that we do this is that when a family is enrolled with care management organization services, they are offered the opportunity to have a family support partner. Family support partners provide one-on-one support. They provide resources, services, as well as state, local, and national services if needed, resources if needed for that family. But it doesn't stop there. We also provide services for outreach initiatives to the entire community. So you do not have to be enrolled with CMO to take advantage of our free services that we have to offer. So some of those things are educational workshops in each county every month, a youth partnership program that is weekly for ages 13 through 21, parent and caregiver support groups, and agency partner presentations like the one you're attending tonight. Everything due to COVID at this time is done virtually. However, we are expanding and looking to begin when the time is right, going back to doing most of our initiatives in person. We also have a warm line. So if you feel like you need to reach out to us for any reason, and get some resources, we're here for you to do that. And that number is 908-223-1191. I also encourage you to visit our information at fso-hsw.org. Thank you again for coming tonight, and we look forward to serving our community.
Thank you so much, Penelope. Thank you so much for the work you do in serving our community.
Thank you.
Next up, we have Linda from Tri-County CMO.
Good evening, everyone, and thank you for attending tonight's presentation, and thank you, Hailey and Jill. So, Tri-County Care Management Organization, we are and reside within the New Jersey Children's System of Care. We work with youth and families in the counties of Warren, Somerset, and Hunterdon, youth age 5 to 21, who have moderate to acute mental, behavioral, emotional health challenges, developmental disabilities, intellectual disabilities, or substance use challenges. And how do we do that? So our sole business that we provide, unlike some of the other presenters you'll hear tonight, is care management. And so care management entails a series of protocol that are employed by our care manager staff. It helps to, they work very intimately with youth and families and community partners, school partners, etc., to develop individualized service plans that actually respect the family's vision in their own voice, not in our voice, as well as what are the most pressing needs that are challenging the youth and family, and what are those respective strategies and associated services and supports that we can access to help our youth and families achieve stability and wellness. Our services, care management, we are funded by Medicaid. There is no cost to the families within our 3 counties, nor in the other 18 counties in New Jersey. That's an important detail. So again, every youth has an individualized service plan. People often ask, so how do I get to Tri-County CMO? So even though we have offices situated in Washington, Warren County, as well as Branchburg, Somerset County, those 2 offices actually serve as our home base. We don't provide services, again, care management, series of protocol that are employed, face-to-face visits with our youth and family, treatment team meetings, et cetera, IEP meetings. So we are pretty much involved with many partners at any given time within the context of a child-family team. And what that means is the youth and the family, they identify and cite who they would like to be formidable members on their team. And we greatly encourage the cultivation of informal and natural supports. So who are those people in that child and family's life that can continue to support and envelop them, as they proceed through their journey toward wellness? So what I often like to cite, my bulleted point, because I don't have a lot of time, is we really work hard with our system partners, including the Family Support Organization, Children's Mobile Response, our community partners, many of them here today, to keep our youth at home, school, and community. And again, we do that through a series of processes, and that information can be made at a later date by Hailey. To contact us, our primary telephone number is 908-526-3900. Our warm line, in effect, you dial that number and elect option 8. We also have an email that you can contact us at. It's info@tricountycmo.org. Our website, www.tricountycmo.org. We have a wonderful statewide resource database platform, and ours is entitled the Tri-County Resource Net. Every county in New Jersey has a resource net. So if you have friends, families, colleagues, professionals that are working with youth, say hypothetically in Morris and Sussex County, they too can access the Morris Sussex Resource Net for formal and informal resources, including a lot of basic needs resources that we've seen more of a pronounced need for given COVID in terms of secure housing, employment, and so forth. So I thank again Jill and Hailey, and just so grateful for this opportunity. In terms of COVID, we are increasingly migrating toward resumption of in-person, in-home visits. That's our original model that we've had in effect for well over 18 years in the children's system of care. But clearly, you know, we're employing the COVID protocol. Everyone has a safety kit, all levels of staff. No one gets a pass with the safety kit, fortunately. And most importantly, it really is at the, you know, selection of the youth and family. I mean, that's first and foremost. So that if the family says not yet or yes, we've been waiting months now, that's what we respect. So
Wonderful.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Linda. Thank you for being here and sharing your resources with us. Again, we'll just attach all of that information in the post-webinar emails, just in case you need a review. Awesome. Last but certainly not least, we have Letitia from Northwest Cap.
Okay. Hello, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you loud and clear.
Awesome. First, I would like to thank you for having us today. But our agency, I just want to tell you a little bit about Northwest Cap. Our agency have been deeply rooted in the communities we serve since 1965, serving low to moderate income families in 5 counties in New Jersey. We cover Warren, Hunterdon, Sussex, Morris, and Somerset, offering a comprehensive array of programs and services to create opportunities and change lives. We address 6 critical service areas: education, employment, financial empowerment, health and nutrition, housing and community development, and volunteerism, which helps us to deliver real measurable impacts for the communities we serve. At Traditions Family Success Center, we're currently offering virtual supports, activities, and services. Our monthly calendar offers virtual workshops and events as we wait to get back to pre-COVID normalcy. But Northwest Cap as a whole is still available via phone, email, and mail during COVID. So if you experienced a reduction in income or laid off due to COVID, please give us a call. Our number is 908-454-7000, or you can reach us at our Get Help Now at www.norwestcap.org. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Letitia, for that and for sharing all of those great updates.
You're welcome.
Thank you so much to all of our community resources for coming on tonight. We appreciate your partnership with DASAC. The work you all do is so very, very important to our community, and we appreciate all of your efforts. Again, all of their information will be in a post-webinar email, including flyers, contact information, and ways to get involved. Now, as we transition to our panel, remember to use the Q&A box chat features, and I'll periodically check in tonight. So without further ado, I'm going to start introducing our panelists one by one with their bios. First up, we have Juan Torres. Juan has served on the New Jersey Department of Education for 13 years in various capacities. As a literary specialist in the former Office of Literacy, as a county educational specialist in Warren and Somerset counties, and then the interim executive education specialist in Warren and Somerset counties, the county superintendent of Hunterdon, Somerset, and Union counties. He is currently assigned solely as the interim ECS in Hunterdon County. Prior to entering this field of education, Juan was a reporter for the Times of Trenton, the Asbury Park Press, and the Times leader in Wilkes-Barre, PA. He taught for most of his career in Asbury Park schools in Monmouth County. Next up, we have Kelly Allen. Kelly Allen has a Master's of Art in Special Education from the College of New Jersey and has been working on improving school climate for 7 years prior to joining the Department of Education in 2013. Kelly is the manager of the Safe and Supportive Schools Bureau in the Office of Student Support Services of the New Jersey Department of Education. The work of the Safe and Supportive Schools Bureau focuses on school climate, social and emotional learning, student conduct, anti-bullying, substance use, suicide prevention, tiered systems of support, trauma-informed practices, and school safety, law enforcement operations, and general health services. Next up, we have Diane Kolinsky. She is a licensed professional counselor in the state of New Jersey and has been in private practice in Lebanon, New Jersey for 9 years. She started her mental health career working for Devereux Foundation in Philadelphia and also worked with the adjudicated men and women at Eagleville Hospital in Pennsylvania. She worked at Carrier Clinic in Bellmead, New Jersey for 4 years, running groups and counseling men, women, and adolescents with severe and pervasive mental health issue. She holds a master's degree in counseling psychology from Immaculate University and also an MBA from LaSalle University. Her specialties include trauma, addiction, depression, anxiety treatment, domestic violence, and working with sexual deviant behavior. Next up, we have Udelka Kolumna. Udelka is a multi-awarded licensed clinical social worker with over 15 years of experience in helping children, adults, families overcome difficult aftermath of mental, physical, and emotional trauma, including suicidal ideation, anxiety, depression, PTSD, and behavioral issues. In order to help disadvantaged groups with mental health issues, Udelka started her own counseling private practice in New Jersey named Healing Road Counseling Services, as well as a nonprofit organization named Healing Partners Counseling. Her vast experience in the field paved the way to multiple contracts with several local and national U.S. federal agencies, universities, and other nonprofit organizations. Udelka's expertise lies in using an ethical, mindfulness-based, trauma-informed, culturally sensitive approach to help her clients. She makes sure to provide an empathetic, safe, and an ethical environment to support survivors of sexual assault, domestic violence, trauma, immigration challenges, child abuse, neglect, etc. And last but certainly not least, we have Miranda Pilate. Miranda Pilate is the community leader as a bilingual family partner at Norwest Cap Traditions Family Success Center in Phillipsburg. Sorry. For 6 years, she began her career. She's been at this organization in Norwest Cap for 6 years. She began her career working and volunteering for nonprofit agencies and organizations at the age of 14. Miranda completed her family development credentials from Rutgers University and has began to venture into returning to college to pursue her bachelor's in business administration to further her career and her accomplishments. Miranda has been awarded prestigious awards such as the Sonia Rivera Women in Leadership Golden Latin Award in 2015, and as well as volunteerism and community leadership awards in 2016. Wow, this is a well-rounded group of experts we have tonight. So without further ado, let's get started on our questions. Question number one I have 3 individuals answering from our panel. So I'm just going to give them a heads up. Diane, Juan and Kelly, and Marigny, I'll call on you after we read this question. How can I continue to support my child's social development while we are in quarantine and while they don't have access to other children? Let's start with Diane K.
Thanks, Haley. Thanks so much. Well, I think the most important thing is to use technology to help our children and adolescents stay connected. Most adolescents, middle schoolers, high schoolers, are already plugged into technology. Most of them have cell phones. They know how to use the platforms, whether it's Instagram or Snapchat or Facebook. And even younger children now, are very familiar with smartphones and technology. So we need to be very creative, I think, with providing our children for opportunities to engage with other children via these platforms. Things like getting involved in yoga classes and exercise classes can be extremely helpful. I've seen a lot of creativity in terms of having online birthday parties. I know in my neighborhood, there was a young child that had a birthday, and the parents put together a drive-up birthday party where they decorated outside, and they had people drive their cars up, and beep and, wave to their child. So I think we really need to be creative in what we're doing. The other thing I would recommend is not punishing a child by taking away their cell phone, or if you are going to take away the cell phone, do it for short periods of time, not, you've lost your cell phone for a whole week, which for a middle school student or a high school student is absolute torture. So just be really careful with using that as, a punishment or a consequence for your child. Encourage outdoor activities, of course. And also the other recommendation I had is to talk to other families about what their opinions are about quarantine. You may have some families that are not using social distancing or masks or, the precautions that have been recommended. And so you might want to limit the amount of time that you're spending with that family. However, lots of families are following the guidelines. And you can certainly set up, individual outdoor play dates where, you can encourage social development for your child.
Wow, those are great suggestions, Diane. Thank you so much for those. Next,
You're welcome.
have Juan and Kelly bring in their opinion.
I'll go first. One of the things that educator I would like to see more students doing is reading and writing at home. Literature has this ability to transport students to other worlds, to engage feelings and thoughts that they may be experiencing, and to discover thoughts and feelings in the works of literature that they're reading. Wide reading is always important. Students can gather a lot of information. The research is pretty clear about boys in general. They're not that interested in reading about thoughts and feelings, but about things, cars, video games, which they then export into their conversations. And ultimately, they'll have richer conversations on the different kinds of media that are available out there. So everything that Diane was just saying is really good advice as far as staying connected. And of course, it doesn't always have to be high tech. With today's texting, kids rarely pick up the phone and actually speak to each other. So I think encouraging real conversations, whether it's FaceTiming or just picking up the audio and just talking with people, can be very helpful. And, something that I've tried to practice, although I confess not as often as I should or as much as I'd like, is letter writing. This is a unique period in history. I still look back at some of the letters I received in college. They're keepsakes and mementos and little time capsules of this period of your lives. And so, there's something tangible about a letter. It traveled through the Postal Service typically, and you can hold on to it and you can reread it as often as you like, and even put it in a scrapbook and save it for posterity. So those would be some things that I think have A, an academic side, and B, certainly are useful for social and emotional learning.
Yeah, Juan, those are great suggestions, and you're right. In a world full of social media, sometimes it's really great to get back to basics.
I would like to piggyback on what everyone said, because, I mean, let's face it, we hear the phrase, we are our children's first teacher, and this, we are actually living it. So I have a lot of parents that come up to, they call us and they express their frustrations, and I totally get it. But one of the things that I always tell parents when they're unloading all this on me, I always, I tell them to check in regularly with their kids, have a conversation, an open conversation about what they're hearing, about how they're feeling about this pandemic, because, I mean, let's face it, they're the ones who are really feeling it. So, checking in regularly, talking to them. So what have you heard about COVID? How are you feeling about this? And having them tell you. So that you have a feel of what they're going through. Open up communication, keeping it open is very important too. I mean, like Juan was saying, we're going back to the basics, really. And sitting down and being around family is one thing that's happening that really didn't happen regularly, unfortunately, in many homes, including my own. So this is a perfect opportunity for us as parents to open communication with all of our children on a one-on-one basis, preferably, and sometimes around the kitchen table is good too. Also, keeping an eye out for changes in behaviors in your children. That is something that I always say, monitor your children, especially, when they're online, because you don't know what they're seeing, what's happening in their little heads. So, keeping an eye out for that. And that is across the board in all ages. Also for activities, I always encourage parents to, use their own judgment. Some parents are more stricter in being outdoors than others. But I always encourage, taking them out. If it's keeping a 6-foot distance, you can do it. I see a lot of people going to, pumpkin patches and things like that, and keeping distance and using their masks and always going over, keeping your hands clean and all that. And with agencies, our agency this year is offering a drive-up, a trick-or-treat. So they're gonna drive up to our agency with their cars, and we're gonna place the candy in their hands, and off they go. So that's a way of, of keeping them as normal as possible in this pandemic. So there's a lot of agencies that will be doing this. So I would always encourage everyone to, to keep us in their minds when they're looking for activities to do, because we're always coming up with something new. As well as using, virtual play dates. That's another activity that we tell parents to do. There's Zoom, there's House Party, there's all types of apps, of course, keeping a high monitoring with all this online activity that's going on. I always, remind parents to do that. Especially when it comes to social gaming. That is a platform that a lot of teenagers are using now. I have a lot of teenage nephews and nieces, and they're always on Roblox and Minecraft. There's so many others out there, but they're talking to their friends and to other different people, and that's great. But also it's gonna bring our monitoring to a high level because we don't wanna take that away, but we also want to make sure that they're safe.
Wow, those are all really awesome answers, Marigny. Thank you so much. You had everything in there from being on technological platforms to being in person. Really love that kind of well-rounded idea. Let's move on to question 2. This question will be asked to Udelka, Diane, and Juan and Kelly again. This question states, what should caregivers look for as signs and symptoms that their family, partner, children, or teen is experiencing more than just grief from those losses? Are there symptoms and changes that I might notice, and what do I do once I've noticed them? Let's see if Udelka wants to take the lead in this question.
Hi, thank you so much, Hailey. One of the things that I want people to take in consideration is the time. Like if it's not a reasonable time when you're dealing with a loss or a family member, then you need to pay attention about what is the level of functioning and how is the mood of that person. Grief and loss is a very general topic. So it's not the same if you're losing your mom or your partner as if you lose a friend or somebody that you know. There are different types of losses. So I cannot say that one fits all. It will depends of, is it a reasonable time for this person to feel, act in certain way, and then depending on the time, then you might need to seek help. If you are seeing that your child is very sad, very moody, angry, if he has some type of regression, into, for example, in children might regress. They might do things that they were doing when they were younger, after a loss. So just pay attention to those. So if you see that your children are struggling with that, or you yourself are struggling, if you find yourself struggling with that, these feelings of overwhelm or extreme sadness for a long period of time, I think that you need to seek help. It's okay to seek help if you're feeling overwhelmed or if you're feeling that you're depressed, if you cannot cope with the symptoms or cope with the situation. I think one of the things that is very, very important is to understand that if you seek help, this is not a sign of weakness. It's actually the opposite. It's a sign of being smart. If you need help, it's okay to seek help. There's nothing to be ashamed of with seeking help, when you need it. So just pay attention to yourself, pay attention to your family members, to your children. If it's taking a long time, more than a reasonable time frame to show like symptoms of sadness and anxiety and all these kind of feelings, seek help and don't feel ashamed of that. This is what I think that people need to know, that there's nothing wrong with seeking help if you need to.
Yeah, that's great advice, Udelka. Thank you so much. Also, thank you so much for pointing out that these extreme symptoms that we might notice might include regression and extreme anxiety, anger, etc. Those are all really concrete things that our parents can look out for and our caregivers can see.
Welcome.
Next up, let's talk to Diane about this and see if she has any additional thoughts and feelings.
Yeah, sure. I just want to remind parents that they know their children the best, and so they're the best eyes and ears to see if there's been a marked change in their child's behavior. For example, and I know this is difficult because of all the virtual learning, but if your child's grades start to plummet all of a sudden, or they're not getting their homework done the way they would typically, or maybe they feel, you've noticed that they're not smiling as much as they used to, they're not as animated as they used to be. For younger children, if they're isolating in their rooms too much, any kind of weight gain or weight loss can be a symptom of depression. In teenagers, low frustration tolerance and high agitation. Certainly any signs of cutting or any kind of self-injury is really important to watch. Especially middle school girls are cutting quite a bit now to release tension. Any kind of drug use, alcohol use is really a sign that we need to get an intervention in there quickly. Crying more than typical is another sign, and also being like excessively tired, where a child used to have energy in the morning and now, you just can't seem to get them out of bed. They're, can also be a sign of depression. In terms of anxiety, any kind of shaking or like chest pain, You know, other words for anxiety are, I feel really overwhelmed. I feel super stressed these days. You know, I don't know how to manage things. I'm really confused. You know, those are all signs of anxiety. You know, I mirror what the last speaker said about, you know, getting help for your child. Certainly if your child asks to go to therapy, I always tell my parents, jump on that immediately. If your child says, you know, Mom, I really think, or Dad, I really need to talk to somebody, get them in, because if they're saying that, it's really a reaching out for help. Also, I would definitely reach out to mental health professionals for maybe a consultation, because, you know, teenagers typically are grumpy and moody, and even middle school students too. They tend to isolate in their rooms. They don't really talk about their feelings. And so it might be hard to tell whether they're going through something or whether this is moving into the area of depression or anxiety, you know, more than loss or grief of, you know, the way life used to be. And so, you know, if you need to, you can always ask a mental health professional, you know, is this normal, or is this, you know, not normal? And I'm always happy to help, you know, talk to people, and I'm sure the other professionals are as well.
Wonderful, Diane. Thank you so much for that. Thank you also for pointing out that parents know their kiddos best, and for them to really be the ones monitoring those kiddos and teens. Also, thank you for bringing up just checking in for help. A few of our resources earlier mentioned warm lines and mental health lines, and that is definitely something to be utilized. I just want to see if Juan and Kelly have anything to add to this question. So please let me know if you do or don't.
Thanks, Kelly. I would love to add something. This is Kelly.
Of course, go ahead.
So thank you for giving the opportunity. And I can't agree more with the two previous speakers, and Diane and Hailey both reiterating that parents know their kids the best. I would also remind parents that teachers also know your kid. Even though it's the beginning of the school year, they're still getting to know those relationships. It's really helpful to reach out to the school or the school counselor if you have any concerns. They could be a source of support to help provide that counseling or other type of services right then, or to help provide a referral to someone else that could be of support. So I think that is important to remember, and also agree that there are so many different resources out there for parents related to grief and loss, as well as if you have concerns about your child's mental well-being, or concern for suicide, or concern around that, you know, you're just in a crisis situation. There are a lot of great hotlines, and I'll be sure to put a link in the chat to our page on supporting the emotional well-being of students, which kind of groups different things like grief and loss, like anxiety, like dealing with COVID, and some simple resources and hotlines that I think will be helpful for folks. I'll be sure to put that into the chat.
Oh, that is so helpful, Kelly. Thank you so much for that. I'm sure all of our attendees will appreciate that. Also, thank you for validating the teacher's point of view, that teachers get to see a whole different side of kids, and that can be their norm as well. Thank you. Let's move on to question number 3. Question number 3 will be asked again to Marigny, Udelka, and Diane. This question reads, what can caregivers do to minimize the impact of the isolation and feelings of loneliness for teens and children? Let's have Marigny start.
Did the questions move around? Okay. So, so I like reiterating what we said. Children are normal, you know, by normalcy, they're social butterflies. So always, you know, keeping them in touch with their friends, allowing them to use, you know, the platforms of Facebook and, you know, their cellular phones to keep in contact. Also, like I said, going back to the basics, writing letters. For small children, there's a special activity that I've seen someone doing. I don't remember where I saw it, but they made an arts and crafts where they traced themselves, and they did their arms in accordion style, and those are hugs that they would send by mail, and they would send them to the grandparents, you know, since the grandparents couldn't be seen because they were high risk. And so that was a way of keeping them in touch with their family members. And I thought that was a great idea, because kids love to have something tangible and grandparents too. So that was an activity that I shared in our parent group to do with their children. I don't know who did it, but I know that it was out there and a lot of them liked it. But, you know, finding time is a whole other thing. But, you know, just always allowing children to be as normal as possible. I think that's just what I always reiterate to parents. Keep a routine. Even if they're at home, you know, get up early, you're going to start class, get dressed, even if it's from the waist up, because you're going to be on virtual, but just keeping them on a routine, you know, lunchtime, breakfast time, going outside for 15 minutes a day, you know, as normal as possible. It's hard on all of us, and especially on children. So that's very important, the routine.
Yeah, Marigny, that makes so much sense. During quarantine, even adults needed to keep a routine. Our normal patterns of work to deal with work-life balance, especially since work and life was at home, same location. So that makes a lot of sense. Keep a routine. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Udelka, would you like to add anything to this question?
Yes, absolutely. I agree with Marigny. I think it's very important to try our best to keep a routine as much as possible. So another thing that I could add is to play more with your kids, you know, and not only playtime, but also include them in your house chores. I am a mother on my own, so I have 3 kids. So I involve them in my house chores as well. So come and help me. So let's cook together, you know, create that sense that we are going through this pandemic as a family. It's a family thing and we're going through this together. So let's be team players. So be honest with your kids. You know, this is a difficult time for everyone in the family. So be honest, be open, and create that teamwork. That teamwork feeling, like we are a family, we're going through this together. You're not alone, you know, I'm here to support you. Talk to them, you know, watch movies together, you know, cooking together, doing board games, you know, go for a walk with them. You know, I think it's important. It also, one of the things that have been very beneficial with the clients that I work with, and me in my personal life as well, is to get involved in some type of church or service or volunteer activities. There are plenty of places out there that provide online services or online activities that you can do, you know, in order to feel connected with other people. I think that's very important. In my case, it has been very beneficial to be able to attend services online and, you know, to be connected with other people. So try to do whatever you can to keep connected with other people and keep the family connected. As you know, do your best. You know, don't try to be perfectionist. You're not a perfectionist. Just do your best with what you have.
Of course, yeah. It's hard sometimes to feel isolated when you're still in community, wherever that community is. Knowing that those feelings can creep in a little bit, but you gave great options to be able to switch up those communities and to be able to stay involved in all different kind of levels, whether it is virtual or even just going out. Thank you. And then Diane, I also have you listed on this question. Would you like to add anything on top of Udelka and Marigny?
Yeah, I think the suggestions that have been already made are terrific. Some other ideas that I have are kind of like checking in with your child every once in a while to see how they're feeling, and creating a vocabulary for their feelings. You know, I'm feeling alone, or I'm feeling lonely, or, you know, I feel like I never see anyone. Like in our office, we have a feeling chart that they're available online. If you just Google, you know, feeling chart, they have all kinds of, you know, like cartoon character charts that show emojis of, you know, how are you feeling today? And, you know, of course, loneliness is on those charts. And so just keeping that vocabulary available to your children. We already talked about cooking. You know, family dinners are very, very important. This has been documented so many times, how important it is to have family dinners. And it's a time for everybody to share their day and to talk about feelings and give everybody a chance to talk. Also, teaching your child how to soothe themselves, how to entertain themselves, right? Like we're used to kind of passive entertainment now, sitting in front of the TV and, you know, the iPhones, but we need to be able to teach ourselves how to entertain ourselves. So whether it's listening to music or pulling out, you know, coloring books and doing art or crafts or games or puzzles. But, you know, working with your child to, you know, if you're feeling down on a particular day because you miss your friends, how can you soothe yourself? How can you lift yourself back up? And also involving extended family in this as well. Someone mentioned, you know, grandparents, aunts, uncles, cousins, you know, keeping in touch with extended family can really help with this feeling of isolation as well.
Yeah, those are all really great selections for families to choose from. Family dinners are very important. I have seen that in research. And I love your thoughts about vocabulary. If you can name it, you can feel it, or if you can feel it, we should be able to name it. And I really appreciate that. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Next up, we have question 4, and we'll have Juan and Kelly start up with this and have Marigny add in any additional thoughts. This question reads, any suggestions for activities or online resources for families that are continuing to maintain stricter social distancing standards to help children and teens feel more connected?
So a lot of our guidance was put out in the back document, and I can load that up into the chat momentarily. All of our guidance for social emotional learning would be found there, and as far as there are numerous online resources that parents can access through that. Just one thing I would like to talk about that hasn't been addressed thus far is the importance of the adults in the children's lives, all the adults, including the parents, doing a lot of self-care for themselves. There's an old saying in the educational world that the teacher is the weather meter and the barometer of the classroom. The parent is the weather and barometer of the home. And so if you're not taking care of yourselves and doing the things that are important for your mental health and physical health, you won't be much use to your children and helping them grapple through this. As has been noted by other speakers this evening, we're all in this together. Our children are not going through this alone. We're going through it with them. And so it's very, very important that we do what we can to make sure that we are there for them, that we're listening intently to them. And I'm guilty of this. My children will come up to me and tell me something rather quickly, and I will, my go-to is just to answer as quickly as possible. That's not always necessary and oftentimes counterproductive. Listen intently and deeply to your children as they navigate this difficult time. So I think that, I don't know if Kelly has anything more to add.
No, I think those are all really great points. And I think a lot of the things that the other speakers talked about around this topic about how to help teens feel more connected. I would just say just anything that parents can do to support kids in building their community and building those connections is really important. And we know that when physical distancing is necessary, those social and emotional connections are even more important. So I think parents can do to help support that, I think, is critical. Taking the kids' lead on activities that are of interest to them and showing interest in it. Things that we talked about earlier about, letter writing, having virtual movie nights, hangouts, trivia, those kind of things. And I think that one of the speakers talked about earlier, which I just want to emphasize, the idea of gratitude and taking a second to really recognize what they feel grateful for in that moment helps to deal with a lot of anxiety, helps to make those connections, and then giving back. So whether that is, volunteering to tutor another sibling, tutor a child on another grade level through virtually, whether it is taking in your neighbor's garbage cans or whatever it is, those things really do help to kind of keep kids feel more connected to their family and their community. I think that's really important.
To add to all the great suggestions that you guys just mentioned, I always find it important to remind them that, you know, that this situation is only temporary. You know, a lot of the times kids just get stuck in everything that's going on. You know, they have that doomsday feeling because of everything, you know, that they're hearing, especially now with, you know, the elections going on, and they see all these things, and kids pick up more than what we think they pick up. So aside of, you know, checking in on them on a daily basis, just reminding them that this is just temporary, that this is, you know, this is not going to be forever. And, you know, making the best out of the situation, finding new ways of doing things. You know, before we used to go to the stores every day, but now we're not doing that, you know, and that's okay. We do online shopping then, you know, whatever it may be, just to, you know, normalize the situation, you know, finding new ways, using the magic of small things. I always say, using the magic of little things on a daily basis. And with that, I mean, like, making moments teachable. And that's kind of hard to do in a fast-paced world that we live in, but, you know, finding ways to acknowledge, you know, achievements. You know, sitting in front of a computer, no, I give it all to them. I give it to all the students, because I would not be able, with my ADD, to sit in front of a computer and listen to a teacher for 3 hours straight. I mean, I give it to them. So they graduate for me, like they get the A+ for me for that. So, you know, they're doing a lot. They're doing a lot. So, you know, communication, acknowledging feelings, talking about it. Just talk about it.
Yes, you are correct. Thank you so much, Juan, Kelly, and Marigny. Also, thank you, Juan, for sharing that link in the chat with all of us. If you and attendees want to click into that link to save it, we'll also send that out. And also, Juan, thank you so much for touching on the adults, parents, and caregivers in this process. I know we have a lot of child questions. In our final question, we'll talk a little bit more on the family as a whole, but I really appreciate you validating the parents in this process, and that their mental health and well-being is just as important as our kiddos. So last but not least, we'll answer question 5. Question 5 reads, how can our family work together toward resilience during this difficult time, and what protective factors can we focus on within our family? I have this question for Diane, Marigny, and Udelka. Marigny, you're still up on my screen if you want to touch upon this a little bit, and then we'll move on to the others.
How does that happen? So like I said before, this is, it's almost piggybacking on what I was saying before. To teach resiliency is to, you know, acknowledge the feelings that the kids and families are feeling right now, because we can't forget about ourselves and nurturing ourselves as well, to provide that resiliency for our families, right? Because if we're falling apart, then our families will fall apart too. So, so a way to practice resiliency is, like I said before, finding new ways of dealing with what we're dealing right now. Just being creative, you know, and coming back to the basics. I keep reiterating coming back to the basics, because that's what grounds us. That's what grounded us when we first began this world, and that's what's grounding us now. And just, you know, having, you know, not skipping out on the family events, like, you know, sitting down and eating dinner together, having family meetings, having family fun nights. That's a great way to maintain another activity that I see that a lot of families do. And my demographic is mostly the Hispanic families. So they, you know, they grow up in a household with the mom and the grandfather and the uncle. So helping each other out, you know, when one of the family members is down on their luck, the other family members chips in, and then in turn they do the same. And having children see that exchange, that is a great way of building resiliency within a family and within a child, because they see, even though, you know, so-and-so is having a hard time, my family is here to help them, and there's a way out of that. So
yeah, I love that answer. That's beautiful. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Next, we have Diane and Udelka. If either of you would like to chime in on this.
Yeah, I'll say a few things. I think, what I see, and I'm a mother also. My daughters are adults now, but I think as parents, we want to kind of jump in and fix things for our kids. No parent wants to see a child go through a tough time, and so we're really big on kind of saying, well, maybe you should try this, or maybe you can try that, or giving advice. Where I learned the hard way to the way to build resilience is to help your child problem solve rather than problem solving for them. So asking questions like, well, what do you think about that? What's going through your mind? What do you think would happen if you did this or you did that? So, helping them problem solve and think through it rather than give them the answer to what you think might be best. So I think that builds resiliency. Self-confidence is so incredibly important. What I've been reading is that for every kind of complaint that a parent has, they should have 5 positives to say to their child. And it can be something simple like, wow, you really put on your shoes really well today. Thank you so much for, feeding the dog. Thank you so much for helping your younger brother with that. Wow, you did that? That's terrific. It doesn't have to be anything big, but just, a lot of positive reinforcement. I see a lot of parents, unfortunately, in my practice who use just overly harsh consequences for, behavior as a corrective measure for behavior. And I'm a big proponent of rewarding good behavior rather than punishing bad behavior. So whatever we can do to stay positive. Another great tip is to avoid saying no, we can't do this. No, we can't do that. Try to say yes to your child. Yes, we can go over to so-and-so's house. First, I'd like you to pick up your laundry and bring it downstairs. Once you've done that, we can go. Or, can I have a treat? Yes, you can have a treat. As soon as you're finished with dinner, we'll have a treat afterwards. So whenever you can, try to say yes instead of no. Practice patience, tolerance, have very clear expectations, but within those expectations, keep flexibility. And also help your child trust their instincts. And really do like a self check-in. Well, how do you feel about that? How would you, build empathy as well? Well, how do you think you would feel if your friend did that to you, right? And that all builds resilience.
Awesome. Yeah, those are great. Those are great concrete examples. And thank you for that. Sometimes when we're on panels and kind of in webinars like this, there are some abstract concepts of, oh, well, just do that and just do this. And I love that you put vocabulary behind it and language behind it. Those are really good concrete skills for caregivers to utilize in the home. So thank you so much for that. And then Udelka, I also have you listed on this question if you would like have any add-ins or if you have any comments following Diane and Miranda.
Yes, I just want to share with everyone that I wrote a book about resilience. It's called Emotional Resilience, which is very, it goes with the times that we're experiencing right now, which is the COVID-19. So the name is Emotional Resilience, Practical Solutions for Overcoming Challenges to Thrive in Life, in which I share a lot of tips and ideas of what can you do to face adversity. These are techniques that I have learned in my journey as a person, right? And then in my job as a clinical social worker, working with my clients. So I agree with what my colleagues have expressed. I agree. I think you guys have had terrific advice, and I agree 100% with what you said. I just want to add that being resilient is being able to adapt, to be flexible, to be grateful, to be optimistic, to trust that you can overcome this, that you don't have to be perfect. Don't try to be perfect right now. Right now, Try to be your best with what you have, with the resources that you have, you know, with the resources that you have on your lap, right? So we need to remind ourselves that change is the only constant in life. So what can you do when you're facing change? You can resist change and suffer, or you can adapt and be creative and be flexible and overcome adversity and the challenges and become stronger, wiser, and a better person. Try to be optimistic. Try to see the light at the end of the tunnel. As Marinji was saying, you know, think about this situation as a temporary situation, because change is the only constant in life. We won't live like this forever. This is gonna be a new normal, but it's a change, right? So what can we do? Be creative, be flexible, you know, and be optimistic, that trust that you have what it takes to overcome this. Make sure that you manage stress well. So if you need help, as we have discussed, as we have shared before, seek help if you need it. Don't be ashamed. Try to practice some type of relaxation activities, exercise, meditate, deep breathing, go outside, play with your kids, take care of your physical health as well. Make sure that you're eating healthy, that you are drinking water, that you're sleeping well, that you're taking your vitamins, your supplements, your meds. Establish priorities. It's very important. Not everything is urgent and important at the same time. So it's impossible for you to do everything at the same time, all the time, perfectly. It's just not possible. So you need to be realistic and establish priorities. You know, prioritize your present time. What is the most important thing right now? Important and urgent. Okay.
Yeah, and I love that you have a book on this. That's incredible, because now we can share that in the chat, the title of that. We can also send that in the follow-up emails for individuals to look into and purchase. It seems like we could go on and on and on about resiliency and kind of what it takes to be resilient, especially in a pandemic. So thank you so much for giving us a well-rounded answer of the options that we can do and partake in, not only as a family, but as individuals.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
So this wraps up the questions, the preset questions that we had. If you have, as attendees, any questions for the panelists, please feel free to put that in the question and answer. And then if there's anything in that Q&A box, we will try to answer it. But since there is not, as of right now, I would really love to kind of just talk to our panelists one more time. I will call off each panelist as I read in their bio. And if you just want to give me a 1 quick minute wrap up of what you want our panelists and all the attendees to take away with tonight. So first up, I have Juan Torres.
So thank you. Thank you for having me be involved in this evening's events. It's been a pleasure. It's wonderful to see all of you and work with you on this very important topic. It's really, if there was one thing I'd like folks to walk away with, is that there are resources available, that there's help out there, that's only a phone call away, or an email, or you know, some things are limited. You're not going to be able to walk in just to any old building these days, it seems like. But the resources and the people are still working to ensure that your children are cared for. I know educators are under a tremendous deal of stress at the moment. I live with an educator. Most of my friends are educators, and I've not seen anxiety like this in all of my career. You know, and I know that for parents it's been very frustrating. In my role, I often hear from parents when they are upset with their school districts or their building principals or their classroom teachers. And, you know, I would hope that everybody would just be a little bit understanding and empathetic to the landscape and the terrain right now. Everyone is doing the best they can. And, but, you know, always remain an advocate for your child. and work with your schools, because everybody does have your children's best interests at heart. At least the folks that I work with here in Hunterdon County. And I used to work in Warren County, so I'm very familiar with the folks up there as well. And I know that they are very, very diligent and professional, and will work with you to get you the help you need.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Juan. Thank you for being on this panel tonight and giving us your words. Next up, Kelly. Any final thoughts? Just about a minute wrap up.
Sure, thank you. So I'll just say quickly that I know that when we did the poll, there were a lot of people on the call that were social workers, and there were some parents on the call. And I think that it's really important, especially for those social workers, to make sure you're paying attention to your own social emotional needs in order to support other people. I know Juan kind of mentioned the importance of that adult well-being a few minutes ago, but I think it's important enough to reiterate it. You know, it's that same adage with the airplane, you know, you need to put on your oxygen mask first before you can help others. So really make sure you're practicing your own self-care strategies, making sure that if you're feeling negative thoughts, if you're feeling overwhelmed, you kind of reframe your thinking, or you seek out that mental health support that you may need, because these are challenging times. These are different times. We do have to adapt and be flexible, and things are going to pass. It's not going to be like this forever. Things are going to get better, and we can get through it, but we might just need some help. So I would just encourage that, make sure that all the adults on the call that are helping other people are making sure they're taking care of themselves first. So thank you again, Hailey, for having me here tonight.
Yeah, Kelly, thank you so much. Thank you so much for that wrap up. Let's move on to Diane.
Sure. Thanks, Hailey. Just a couple of other things that I'm thinking as we're talking is I love, you know, what's been said about how the situation that we're in right now with COVID is not going to last forever. You know, we need to remain positive that hopefully there's going to be a vaccine out, and that, you know, there have been other, you know, societal events that we've gone through that we've bounced back from, you know, whether it's 9/11 or, you know, the Gulf War or hurricanes or, you know, so many things that we've overcome as a society, and we will overcome this as well. A couple of areas that we didn't mention, I think we did a great job about, you know, social development, physical exercise, emotional development, you know, but also talking with children about your beliefs, your faith, the spiritual side, you know, especially if you've had a loved one that's ill with COVID or has passed away with COVID, being able to talk about, you know, your beliefs and your values around your spiritual life. And also, let's not forget about our children's sexual development too, especially if you have a middle school student or a high school student. You know, they're not seeing their peers as much, and part of our development is our sexual development as well. So we certainly don't want teenagers turning to online pornography or, you know, sending photographs, you know, of themselves to their peers, those kinds of things in order to experiment sexually. So that's something that we really need to kind of keep an eye on with our middle school students and our high school students.
Yeah, those are awesome things to keep in mind. Thank you so much for that wrap up, Diane. Thank you so much for being on this panel with us and just giving us those extra areas to look out for.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. Next up, I have Udelka. Just to give a quick 1 minute wrap up, any last words that you want to tell our attendees tonight?
Okay, just to inspire people that you can overcome this. We are all in this together. Just try to stay positive, optimistic, get connected with your family, your friends, your church, your spirituality, take care of yourself, you know, just be positive, and we can go through this and we will overcome this, just like we did, just like humanity did with all major events in the past. So be optimistic. We can.
Yeah, no, that's great. Oh, I love the inspirational aspect of that. This will pass, and we will be resilient no matter what, because we have to. So thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Udelka, for all of your input and your expertise on these questions. I so appreciate you being here with us tonight.
Thank you so much for the invitation. Thank you so much.
course. And last but certainly not least, we have Marigny. Any final thoughts for our attendees tonight?
Final thoughts. Like I said before earlier in the beginning, it's important to nurture that nurturer, which is yourself as a parent, as a professional. I saw a lot of caseworkers, and we go through burnout like crazy. So always, check yourself on a regular. Just like I said, check on your children. You have to check on yourself. Build time to focus on yourself. Whether if it is, finding respite care, if that's available for you, or finding local support groups or parent groups. I, for example, have a 2-year-old at the age of 40 something. I'm not gonna go in detail for that. So I do silly things, like I belong to a group called Blippi Parents. I don't know if any of you guys know who Blippi is, but he is famous amongst toddlers. So the parents have a group, and we talk about the shows, and we just, just make fun of things, but that's our little outlet. And just silly things like that. Or you can do, more serious things, like join any parenting group that's available. We offer parenting groups. And now that everything is virtual, you can join parenting groups all across the country. But the resources are out there. Don't be ashamed of looking for help, of looking for new ways of being a parent, because we all know that this is the hardest job, but it's the most rewarding job, but it doesn't come with a manual. So each child is different, each situation is different, and we should always be looking for new ways of doing things and refreshing our resources. A good resource that I share with parents is pbskids.org and Sesame Street kids.org. I think sesamestreet.org. I think I put it in the chat. I always send parents there because it's both available in English and in Spanish, and it talks about a lot of social emotional, topics that you can discuss with your children, and they make it so easy. They make it so easy to talk to your children about difficult situations like what it is, that we're going through right now. So, go on there and check it out. As a professional, as a parent, I guarantee you will find great things there.
Oh,
Aside
Marigny,
of using us too.
Oh, of course. Thank you, Marigny, so much. I love that you're adding some silly things, adding the little magic in, like you said before. I think that's really important to keep some lightheartedness in what seems to be a very heavy situation. So thank you so much. Thank you for being here and everything that you're providing to our community.
Thank you.
Awesome. So I still don't see any chats or questions in the Q&A box. I guess that means that our panelists are just that, the experts. So if you feel like you have any other questions following the webinar, please feel free to reach out to any of the resources listed in those emails. Please feel free to utilize DASAC's helpline, Norwest CAP's warm line, and as well as FSO and FGL, their warm lines as well. So to wrap up tonight, we thought it would be really great to sit in community with you all and do some meditation and mindfulness. Leading this will be Reverend Ava Schlesinger. Ava is a licensed clinical social worker in New York and New Jersey. She's an adjunct professor at NYU's Silver School of Social Work and an ordained interfaith interspiritual minister. She received both her MSW and MPA from New York University and was ordained through One Spirit Interfaith Seminary. Ava's expertise over the last 20 years has been focused on holistically addressing the short-term and long-term symptomology and human and community costs associated with different aspects of interpersonal, gender-based violence and trauma. Welcome, Ava, and thank you so much for leading us in this time.
Thanks for having me. So everybody take a deep breath. It feels like you've been working for a little bit, and it's time to just focus in on our hearts and our commitment to the children. So plant your feet on the ground, root yourself. If you're lying down, just relax. I'm thinking that this is a little bit of a lullaby before everybody prepares to go to sleep tonight. And it's going to be a guided imagery experience in support of the children in our shared communities. So find your natural breath and just take a few slow breaths. Feel the peace of that and the spaciousness of that. And as you continue to breathe, I'm going to guide you in a walk down a path. And if you don't see images, just follow my voice and enjoy the experience. Whatever happens is just fine. Deepen your breath and begin to see a path in front of you. This is a path we're all walking on. Just continue to walk on it. It's outside somewhere in nature. Choose your favorite place and walk slowly. Everything has felt so rushed and so pressured. Be spacious. Feel what it feels to walk on this path. What does it feel like on your feet? Notice everything. Maybe there are plants or trees, flowers, stones, dirt, water, sand, whatever. Just notice the colors, the shapes. Be present on this beautiful path you are on. And look, just ahead, you're coming to a clearing. You can see it. A big, spacious, wide clearing in front of you. Walk toward it and breathe. And as you get closer, begin to understand that you're being called to the center of this path, of this clearing. And take 5 regular breaths at your own pace to get there. Walk to the center of the clearing. And as you get there, just circle around for a moment. Fling your arms out wide. Remember the freedom we used to have, that we will have again. And just spin. Feel that freedom. And slowly come to stillness. Notice the feeling of just being still. You are standing completely still now. And as you stand there, you see children starting to enter the clearing. All of the children. Our infants, our toddlers, our school-age children, our teens, all the children in our collective community slowly enter this wide, very, very safe space. And they are forming a big circle around you. Just imagine what that feels like. You're in the center and they have formed a circle around you. They are calm. They are beautiful. And as we all know, they are our future. Keep breathing, but also start to turn and see all the children in the circle. Perhaps making eye contact with some. Really seeing them. really feeling them in your deepest heart, in my deepest heart. We need to stay awake and remember that really what all of our children need is to feel safe and loved. It's not easy, but it's so simple. They need to feel safe and loved. And what I want you to do now is allow your own love, the love you have to give, begin to well up within you. Feel your heart fill, and now allow that love to begin to pour from you, pouring from your own heart toward the children standing in the circle. And again, slowly turn, keep breathing. Share this love that is abundant. It is pure. It is filled with hope. We must hold the hope. We have to take that responsibility as the grown-ups. Just allow your own radiance and love to be received by all the children in the circle. And breathe. Will you be committed as a member of our community, workers and parents and teachers, to work tirelessly toward the goal of all of our children feeling safe and feeling loved? Will you commit? I can hear it, can you? I can hear a resounding yes. We're here on this call late into the evening. I know the answer is yes from all of you. Allow yourselves to feel that bond between us, that commitment to serve the children, and breathe. Oh, it's beautiful. Notice in your body where that love pours from. And because our time is short, we need to prepare to leave this circle and this clearing now. But before we do, before you do, find a special way to say thank you and goodbye to all of the children that surround you. Feel them, see them, commit to them. Perhaps bow in honor to each of them, or say goodbye in some other way of your choice. And then, slowly in your own time and in your own way, walk toward the edge of the circle. Walk toward the path that you once followed here. And again, notice the colors, the shapes and the details of this beautiful path that you are on. Slowly coming back and back until you are able to feel yourself beginning to step back into your physical presence, the physical presence of wherever you are right now. Breathe into your body, from your feet up into your torso, into your heart and your shoulders. Breathe into your arms and hands and face and head. And just take a couple of extra breaths. And when you're ready, if your eyes have been closed, open them. Know that any time you are feeling weary or tired due to your hard work, and we know it's hard, we are doing this together, that you can come back to this clearing just by closing your eyes and wishing and bringing it up for yourself, or staring into a room or into the distance and remembering about the path that you're walking on. We must stay awake and live into our commitment to the children in our lives and community. We must be their safe place. We must work toward ensuring they each feel loved. Thank you so much for your time, and I hope that that felt like a warm place to land this evening. It was a pleasure to be part of this evening. Thank you very much.
So much for giving us that much needed time of reflection and that time of meditation and mindfulness. As workers, we often forget to give ourselves time. So thank you for giving us as the workers and caregivers time.
Of course.
As I close this evening, I really just want to thank you all. I have one more ask, and that ask is to fill out our last poll. Just check in with us on your emotional climate, check in with us on how you're doing to end this time. And while you're doing that, while you're filling out that poll, I'm just going to remind everyone that, again, we are going to be sending out some of these resources. We're going to be saving this chat, and we're going to make sure that you all have access to all of these wonderful resources and panelists. I just want to thank you all so much for joining us tonight, all of the attendees. Thank you so much to our community resources and the organizations that we work alongside with every single day. Thank you to our expert panelists, and a special thank you to our committee with the DASAC outreach team to make this night possible. So thank you. Good night and enjoy your weekend.